any goal without a plan is just a wish. Having a successful job interview requires research and planning. You wouldn't walk into an exam without swatting up, and this is no different. It's going to make the difference between being offered the job or being shown the door. And there are 6 steps you need to follow to have a successful job interview. Step 1. Research the company you want to work for. Don't be the guy who goes to the interview and knows nothing about them. Honestly, would you hire that guy? That takes no effort and leaves people thinking that's your approach to things. And don't think you're going to impress them just by looking at the company website for a few minutes, memorising a couple of lines and recycling it back to them. That's what they saw from the dozen candidates before you. To stand out, you need to properly research them. Find out who they are. Understand what they do. Are they a product or a service? Who's their target audience? Who are their competitors? What's their reputation like in the industry? Try to get a feel for the type of company they are. Are they a small tech startup or a big corporate conglomerate? All this will throw up relevant questions for you to ask them, which will give you an edge over the person whose only question was how many days holiday you get. Step 2. Research the job you are applying for. Make sure you understand the function of that job. Connect the dots and make the connection of how it fits into the bigger picture in helping the company run smoothly. Step 3. Match your experience to the job description. Go through and check the skills off the list. Isolate what you have done previously to match them. Think of examples that demonstrate this. Focus on the areas they need. Leave out anything that isn't important for this job. If they are after specific experience using a program or a system, then explain when and how you've used it. Don't tell them about every other system you know in an attempt to show off. If it's not relevant to the job, they won't want to know. Identify any areas you don't have experience in. It's okay if you don't tick all the required skills. Almost all companies will be willing to train you. After all, this job is likely to be a climb up the ladder, and there are bound to be some new skills you are going to need to develop. Research anything you don't know, so you can demonstrate some degree of understanding. Match that to a willingness to learn, and it's far more likely they will be willing to train you up. Once you've researched everything, you need to carefully plan how you're going to bring it all together. The goal is to get the interviewer to realise you are the ideal candidate for the job. Talking about the job, the company and your experience is going to account for almost everything they will want to talk about. So in effect, by doing all this planning, you are covering off most of what you will say in the interview. Now you need to figure out how you are going to present all this knowledge and experience so that it comes across engaging. Don't get confused between knowing how to do your job and explaining your job to someone else. They are very different things. How often have you found yourself a little tongue-tied when explaining to friends what you do for a living? Almost like a story, it needs to have a beginning, a middle and an end. It needs to flow with a logical order, with any relevant examples inserted appropriately. It needs to be concise and punchy. You need to keep your audience interested, not falling asleep as you waffle on for 10 minutes on a point you could have summed up in under a minute. What you say needs to be put across in a positive way. They will want to see someone who is enthusiastic about the job. This is probably the most important stage of your preparation. Step 5 is to find out who you are going to be meeting. There are 4 different types of interviewers you could meet. The hiring manager, who's likely to be your boss if you get the job, their boss, or another senior person within the company, like a director, an MD or a CEO, someone in the team who could be working at a similar level to you, or HR. Each one of these represents a different type of audience, and they will all be looking at you from a slightly different angle, and that's where you need to tweak step 4 towards the person interviewing you. A hiring manager or someone in the team will both have extensive knowledge of the job. Their main focus will be to decide if you have the relevant experience to do the job. These interviewers are likely to go into detail with your experience and converse with you on any technical jargon you should both be familiar with. They will be testing your knowledge and looking for exact answers. It will be important to gel with them because if you get the job, you will all be working together as a team. HR and senior management probably won't have the same detailed knowledge of your job role like a hiring manager would, They will want more of a summary of your experience. Tailor your conversation towards them. Don't go into technical detail that they might not understand. It will impress them far more if you can explain your experience in layman's terms, with just enough detail to demonstrate you understand the role and have the necessary experience to match it. Their primary concern will be the bigger picture of bringing somebody on board who is going to add value to the performance of the company. They will leave the detail on whether or not you have the exact skills required to the hiring manager. Their perspective will be on the whole company and finding the right people who are going to make the company a success, as their job is looking after the performance of the whole business. And now we get to step 6, the details. There has been a ton of research done on when someone makes a decision on the person they are interviewing. Many of the results point towards decisions being made very early on, within the first 5 or 6 minutes. So don't give yourself an uphill battle to win them back over by making a bad first impression. If you followed steps 1 to 5, then you've already done the hard work. Make sure you present yourself appropriately. Dress smartly. That doesn't necessarily mean wearing a suit if that's not how people dress in your industry, but you do need to look sharp. Be confident in the knowledge you have prepared fully for the interview, and think about the smaller details like your body language, eye contact and smiling. You want to create the right positive persona.